The clock blinked 2:47 a.m. when I finally heard the soft creak from upstairs. I'd been waiting for that sound, listening to my own heartbeat pounding louder than the rain hitting the roof. For weeks I'd felt something different about Maddox. The late-night work calls, the showers before bed, the scent of perfume that wasn't mine. But tonight I wasn't guessing anymore. Tonight I set a trap. I placed something on their pillow before I left the bedroom. A simple, innocent-looking thing that only I knew wasn't innocent at all. And now, from the dark hallway, I watched Maddox sneak into their room with someone. A woman laughing softly, her voice painfully familiar. My lips curled into a trembling smile. "Perfect," I whispered. I pressed record on my phone. 30 seconds later, the entire house erupted in screams. By dawn, my husband had moved out, with nothing but a towel around his waist. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. Let me take you back 3 months. Back to when I still believed in my marriage. Back to when Priscilla was still the sister I never had. Back to when I was still naive enough to think that love and loyalty meant something. I remember the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The kind of day where the sunlight comes through the windows at just the right angle, making everything look warm and golden and safe. I was working from home, finishing up a report for my marketing firm. Maddox had texted me earlier that he'd be late. Another client dinner. I didn't think anything of it. He was a real estate developer. Client dinners were normal. My phone buzzed. A text from Priscilla. "Missing you, girl. Coffee soon?" "So." I smiled. Priscilla had been my best friend for 12 years. We'd met in college, survived terrible boyfriends together, been bridesmaids at each other's weddings. She was the first person I called when I got my promotion. The first person who held me when my father died. She knew things about me that Maddox didn't even know. I texted back, "Yes. This weekend." Her reply came fast, "Can't this weekend. Maybe next week." I set my phone down and went back to work. But something nagged at me. A tiny voice in the back of my mind. Priscilla had canceled on me 3 times in the last month. Always vague reasons. Always next week. I pushed the thought away. She was busy. Her job as a pharmaceutical sales rep kept her traveling. It was fine. But then my laptop dinged. An email notification. I glanced at it absently, expecting a work email. It was from our home security system. Motion detected. Master bedroom. 2:17 p.m. I froze. We'd installed the security cameras 6 months ago after a string of burglaries in our neighborhood. Cameras at every entrance, motion sensors in the main rooms. I'd honestly forgotten about them. They just ran in the background, storing footage to the cloud. Maddox was supposed to be at his office across town. I was downstairs in the study. So who was in our bedroom? My hand trembled as I clicked on the security app. The feed loaded slowly. Too slowly. Each second felt like an hour. And then I saw it. The bedroom camera showed a figure standing near our bed. A man. His back to the camera. My breath caught. Was it an intruder? Should I call the police? But then he turned slightly, reaching for something on the nightstand. I recognized the shirt. The navy blue polo I'd bought Maddox for his birthday. It was my husband. My racing heart slowed. I felt foolish. He must have come home to grab something. Maybe he forgot a file. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. I was about to close the app when the bedroom door opened again. A woman walked in. Brunette hair, wearing a tight pencil skirt and a blouse I recognized because I'd been with her when she bought it at Nordstrom. Priscilla. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. I watched, frozen, as my husband pulled my best friend into his arms. As he kissed her. As she laughed and pushed him playfully onto our bed. The bed Maddox and I had picked out together. The bed where we'd whispered promises to each other on our wedding night. As his hands slid under her blouse. I slammed the laptop shut so hard I thought the screen might crack. Then I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left inside me but bile and betrayal. I didn't confront them. Not then. Maybe I was a coward. Maybe I was in shock. Or maybe, somewhere deep in my gut, I knew that knowledge was power. That reacting immediately would give them the chance to manipulate me, to gaslight me, to make me feel crazy. Instead, I became a detective in my own life. That night, when Maddox came home at 9:30 p.m. smelling of cologne and mouthwash, I kissed him on the cheek and asked about his day. He told me about his client dinner with such convincing detail. The restaurant, the food, the contract terms, that I almost admired his ability to lie so smoothly. Almost. Sounds exhausting, I said, keeping my voice light. You should get some rest. You're the best, Viv, he said, and the way he smiled at me, so loving, so genuine, made my stomach turn. When he went to shower, I checked his phone. He'd changed his passcode. In 6 years of marriage, we'd always known each other's codes. My hands shook as I tried our anniversary, his birthday, my birthday. Nothing worked. I set the phone down carefully, exactly where he'd left it. The next morning after he left for work, I went through everything. His laptop. His drawers. His car. In his glove compartment, stuffed under the registration papers, I found receipts. Hotels. The Riverside Inn. The Belmont Suites. Dates going back 5 months. 5 months. While I'd been planning our anniversary trip, he'd been checking into hotels with my best friend. While I'd been having Sunday brunch with Priscilla, listening to her talk about her exhausting dating life, she'd been sleeping with my husband. I took photos of every receipt. Every credit card statement. I accessed our security footage and downloaded every instance of Maddox coming home in the middle of the day. There were 11 separate occasions. 11 times he'd brought her into our home. But I needed more. I needed to know everything. I created a fake social media profile. Generic name, stolen photos, a few hundred purchased followers to make it look real. Then I sent Priscilla a friend request from an account that claimed to be a friend of a friend from her college sorority. She accepted within an hour. Her private posts were illuminating. Cryptic quotes about forbidden love and following your heart. Photos from restaurants where she was clearly sitting across from someone, but the other person was carefully cropped out. A selfie from 3 weeks ago where, in the background, I could see a navy polo shirt hanging on a chair. The same shirt from the bedroom footage. And then I found the comment thread that made me want to scream. One of her actual friends had commented on a sunset photo. New man? You're glowing. Priscilla's response. Let's just say I'm happier than I've been in years. He's everything I've ever wanted. Soon what? Soon he'd leave me? Soon they'd go public? I wanted to throw my laptop through the window. Instead, I screenshotted everything and saved it to an encrypted folder. That night, Priscilla called me. She called me Viv. Her voice was bright, cheerful, dripping with false warmth. I miss you so much. We need to catch up properly. I'd love that, I said, and I was proud of how normal I sounded. How about Thursday? Dinner at our place. There was the briefest pause. I could almost hear her calculating. Actually, I'm swamped Thursday. Work is insane. Maybe just the two of us? Girls' night. Of course she didn't want to come to our house for dinner. Too risky. Too weird. Sure, I said. When? Next week? I'll check my schedule and text you. She wouldn't. I knew she wouldn't. She'd been saying next week for months. Sounds perfect, I lied. After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room of the house Maddox and I had bought together. The house where we'd painted the nursery blue 2 years ago before my miscarriage. The house where I'd dreamed of growing old with him. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to be the pathetic wife who falls apart while her husband and best friend laugh behind her back. I was going to make them pay. Revenge, I learned, requires patience. For 2 weeks I played the perfect wife. I smiled. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his day. I initiated sex twice. Clinical, methodical sex that made me feel like I was outside my own body watching someone else go through the motions. But I did it because I needed him to suspect nothing. Meanwhile, I planned. My first instinct was to expose them publicly. Send the evidence to everyone we knew. Post it on social media. Ruin them. But that felt too quick. Too simple. They'd be embarrassed for a while, sure, but they'd recover. They'd paint themselves as tragic lovers who couldn't help their feelings. People would gossip for a few weeks, then move on to the next scandal. But I needed something that would destroy them in a way they'd never recover from. I started with the financial angle. Maddox and I had a joint account for household expenses, but we also had separate savings. Or so I thought. When I checked our banking records, I discovered he'd been slowly transferring money from our joint account into his personal one. Small amounts, $500 here, $800 there, never enough to trigger my attention. Over 5 months he'd moved $47,000. My hands shook as I calculated it. That was money from my salary too. Money I'd contributed. Money he was probably spending on hotel rooms and expensive dinners with her. I called our bank and spoke to our account manager, explaining that I wanted to reorganize our finances. By the end of the week, I'd transferred half of what was left in our joint account into a new account in only my name. I also discovered that I was listed as a co-owner on several of Maddox's business investments, something he'd set up years ago for tax purposes and probably forgotten about. I made careful note of every asset, every investment, every account. Then I called my lawyer. Patricia Wong was not someone you wanted as an enemy. She was a shark in a designer suit, famous for destroying unfaithful spouses in divorce court. I'd actually heard about her from a colleague whose sister had used her. I need a consultation, I told her. But I don't want to file yet. I need time. Tell me everything, she said. I did. I sent her every piece of evidence. Every receipt, every video, every screenshot. She was quiet for a long moment after reviewing it all. Vivian, she finally said, by the time I'm done he'll wish he'd died before cheating on you. Good, I said. But not yet. I need to do something first. What? I need them to understand what they've done. Really understand. I need them to feel it. Patricia laughed. It was not a kind sound. I like you. Let me know when you're ready. But the legal destruction was only part of it. I wanted something more immediate. Something visceral. That's when I found the spiders. I was scrolling through an online shop late one night. One of those sites that sells elaborate prank supplies and special effects equipment. I wasn't even looking for anything specific. Just ideas. And then I saw them. Remote-controlled spiders. Realistic enough to fool anyone in low light. 8 of them in a pack, each about the size of a silver dollar, with articulated legs that moved in disturbingly lifelike ways. The reviews were full of people talking about how they'd terrified their friends, how real they looked, how the motion sensors worked perfectly. An idea formed. Dark. Twisted. Perfect. I ordered them overnight shipping. When they arrived, I tested them in the bathroom. I set one on the counter and activated it with the remote. The spider scuttled across the marble surface, legs moving in that horrible skittering way. Even knowing it was fake, my skin crawled. Perfect. But I needed more than just the scare. I needed the ultimate humiliation. I spent an entire day refining my plan. I studied their patterns. Maddox had a client dinner scheduled for Friday night. Or at least that's what he'd told me. I checked his actual work calendar when he left his laptop open. No client dinner. Just a blocked-off evening marked personal. I checked Priscilla's social media. She'd posted about a spa weekend she was planning. But I'd installed a tracking app on my car. The car I'd generously lent her 3 weeks ago when hers was in the shop. The same car she'd forgotten to return. According to the GPS, my car was parked at her apartment most evenings. Except for 3 nights in the past 2 weeks when it had been parked at the Riverside Inn. Friday night I was willing to bet they'd be coming here. To my house. To my bed. They'd gotten bold. Comfortable. They probably thought I was too stupid to notice. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Friday morning I woke up before Maddox. I'd barely slept, running through the plan over and over in my mind. Good morning, I said when he finally stirred. He mumbled something and reached for his phone immediately. Always his phone. I used to think it was just work. Now I knew better. I'm going to visit my mom this weekend, I announced casually, pouring coffee. She's been asking me to go through some of Dad's old things. I'll probably leave tonight after work and stay through Sunday. Maddox's eyes flickered with interest. Oh yeah. It's good. She needs you right now. My father had been dead for 2 years. My mother was on a cruise in the Mediterranean. But Maddox didn't know that. He was too wrapped up in his own lies to keep track of mine. Yeah, I said softly, playing the devoted daughter. I hate leaving you alone for the weekend though. I'll survive, he said with a smile that probably used to make my heart flutter. Now it just made me nauseous. I'll probably just catch up on work anyway. You work too hard, I said. The irony was completely lost on him. I went to work like normal. Sat through meetings. Responded to emails. My colleagues probably thought I seemed distracted. They had no idea. At 3 p.m. I told my boss I was leaving early. Family emergency, I said. It wasn't even a lie. My family was about to experience an emergency. Just not the kind anyone expected. I drove home and parked my car 2 blocks away, walking back through the neighbor's yard so no one would see me approach. Our house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business. Or thought they did. Inside, the house was silent. Waiting. I went to work. First, I set up my phone on the hallway bookshelf, angled perfectly to capture the bedroom doorway. I'd bought a portable charger to make sure it wouldn't die. I set it to record to cloud storage so even if something happened to the phone, the video would be saved. Then I went into the bedroom. Our bedroom. The room where I'd slept beside him for 6 years. Where I'd woken up next to him on lazy Sunday mornings. Where I'd cried in his arms after losing our baby. I stripped the bed and put on fresh sheets. The good ones. The expensive Egyptian cotton ones we only used for special occasions. This was a special occasion. Then I carefully positioned the spiders. I'd modified them slightly after my test runs. I'd attached tiny motion sensors to the pressure points of the mattress, connected wirelessly to the spiders hidden beneath the pillows and under the bed. The sensors were so small they were invisible against the white sheets. I'd also, and this was the touch I was most proud of, dabbed each spider with a special effects gel I'd found at a theater supply shop. It was designed to look like slime in stage productions, but it had an unintended effect. It made the spiders feel wet and slightly sticky to the touch like real arachnids. I positioned 8 spiders total. 4 under the pillows. 2 on the headboard behind the decorative cushions. 2 more on the floor beneath the bed, programmed to scuttle out when the bed sensors detected sustained weight, when 2 people lay down together. I tested it 3 times to make sure everything worked. Each time the sensors triggered perfectly. The spiders emerged from their hiding spots in a synchronized swarm that made even me jump, and I knew they were fake. In dim lighting they were absolutely terrifying. But the spiders were just the opening act. I positioned my laptop in the closet, screen facing out through the barely cracked door, set to start a live stream on a private channel. I'd sent the link to 10 different devices I controlled. My tablet, my work laptop, even my old phone. I wasn't going to miss a second of this. Then I set up the real masterstroke. Our house had a whole home audio system. Speakers in every room controlled by an app on my phone. Maddox had insisted on installing it 2 years ago. For parties, he'd said. We'd used it maybe 3 times. Tonight, it would get its moment to shine. I queued up a very specific playlist. Audio recordings of various spider species, amplified and layered over each other. Skittering. Clicking. The sound of hundreds of legs moving across surfaces. I'd spent hours editing it to be as unsettling as possible. At exactly the right moment I'd blast it through every speaker in the house. By 6 p.m., everything was ready. I took one last look at the bedroom. It looked perfect. Romantic even. The sheets were smooth, the pillows fluffed invitingly. There was no sign of the nightmare waiting beneath. I grabbed my overnight bag, which I'd packed with clothes to make my trip to Mom's look legitimate, and left through the front door, making sure to close it loudly. Then I circled around to the back of the house and let myself in through the basement door, which I'd left unlocked. The basement was finished. Maddox had converted it into a home gym and entertainment room, but it had a small storage area that was dark and isolated. I settled in there with my phone, my tablet, and a thermos of coffee. And I waited. At 8:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with an alert from the front door camera. Maddox was home. I watched the feed as he walked in looking relaxed. He was wearing jeans and a casual button-down. Date night clothes. He went straight to the kitchen and opened a bottle of wine. The expensive Pinot Noir we'd been saving for our anniversary next month. My jaw clenched. He poured 2 glasses and carried them upstairs. 20 minutes later, the front door camera triggered again. Priscilla. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was down, curled perfectly. She looked beautiful. She also looked around nervously before stepping inside, like she was worried someone might see her. Too late for that, Priscilla. I switched to the hallway camera feed, watching as she walked upstairs. I could hear her voice faintly through the speaker system I'd left active. Are you sure she's gone all weekend? Positive. Maddox's voice. Confident. Careless. She's at her mom's place. 3 hours away. She won't be back until Sunday night. I still feel weird about this. Being in her house. In your bed. There was a pause. Then Maddox laughed. Actually laughed. You didn't feel weird about it the last 10 times. I know, but... Come here. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Rage burned through my veins, hot and acidic. But I couldn't lose control. Not yet. I switched to the laptop feed streaming from the bedroom closet. They were kissing. His hands were in her hair. She was pulling at his shirt. They moved toward the bed. My finger hovered over the trigger app on my phone. Not yet. Wait. Maddox pulled back the covers. They both kicked off their shoes. Priscilla laughed at something he said, that high, flirty laugh I'd heard 1,000 times over coffee, over brunch, over 12 years of friendship. They lay down on the bed together. The motion sensors triggered. For a moment nothing happened. They were kissing, oblivious. Then the first spider crawled out from under Priscilla's pillow. She didn't notice at first. It skittered down the white pillowcase, legs moving in that horrible realistic way. Then 2 more emerged from Maddox's side. Priscilla saw them first. Her scream was primal. She jerked backward so violently she nearly fell off the bed. What the... Maddox. Spiders. He looked down and saw 3 more crawling across the sheets toward them. Holy moly. He scrambled backward, but more were appearing now. From under the bed. From the headboard. 8 mechanical spiders, all moving toward them with coordinated precision. Priscilla was screaming continuously now, swatting at her arms, her legs, convinced they were on her. They're everywhere. Get them off me. Maddox grabbed her, trying to pull her off the bed, but his foot came down on one of the spiders on the floor. The gel coating squished under his bare foot. Oh my world. They're wet. Oh God, they're... That's when I activated the audio. The sound of 1,000 spiders erupted from every speaker in the house. Skittering, clicking, scratching. The bass was turned up so high it vibrated through the walls. Priscilla's screams reached a pitch I didn't think human voices could achieve. They ran for the door, but I'd closed it remotely using the smart lock system. It held for just 5 seconds, long enough for them to panic, slamming against it, thinking they were trapped. When it finally opened, they burst into the hallway. That's when they realized they were both half naked. Maddox in his boxer briefs. Priscilla in her bra and panties. And that's when I activated the exterior lights. Our house had motion sensor floodlights on all sides. I'd modified the settings so I could trigger them manually. Every single light blazed to life at once, illuminating our yard like a stadium. Mr. Peterson from next door was taking out his trash. He froze, bags in hand, staring. The Kowalski family across the street was getting out of their car. All 4 of them stopped mid-step. Mrs. Misty from 2 houses down was walking her dog. The dog started barking. And Maddox and Priscilla, half naked and screaming about spiders, came running out the front door. I'd unlocked it remotely. I'd planned everything. They didn't stop running until they reached the front yard, where they finally seemed to realize they had an audience. I watched from the basement window as Maddox tried to cover himself. As Priscilla wrapped her arms around her chest. As our neighbors stared in absolute shock. Mrs. Peterson had her phone out. She was recording. Perfect. I waited until the audio could reach me clearly, then I climbed the basement stairs and walked calmly out the back door, circling around to the front of the house. Vivian. Maddox's face went white when he saw me. I thought you said you were. At my mom's. I finished, my voice cold. I lied. Priscilla was crying now, mascara running down her face. Viv, please, I can explain. Explain. I laughed. It was not a kind sound. Explain what, exactly? How you've been sleeping my husband for 5 months. How you've been coming into my home, sleeping in my bed, drinking my wine, and then calling me afterward to talk about your fake dating life. The neighbors gasped. Mrs. Peterson's recording hand was rock steady. It's not, Priscilla started. Shut up, I said quietly. You don't get to talk. You don't get to explain. You don't get to make excuses. I turned to Maddox. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Pathetic. The spiders were fake, by the way, I said. Remote-controlled toys. The sounds were a recording. You ran out of our house screaming because of plastic and sound effects. I could see the realization dawning on his face. The humiliation. But your fear. I continued. That was real. Your panic? And now everyone knows what you are. Vivian, please. He stepped toward me. Don't. My voice cracked like a whip. Don't come near me. Don't speak to me. Don't you dare breathe in my direction. I pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket. I'd prepared it that afternoon. These are divorce papers. You have 24 hours to get your things out of my house. If you're not gone by tomorrow night, I'll have the locks changed and your belongings thrown on the lawn. And trust me, after tonight's performance, I don't think the neighbors will object. A few people laughed. Actually laughed. Maddox's face turned red. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. I smiled. Check the deed. My name is on it. Only my name. You wanted me to put the house in my name 4 years ago for your business tax purposes. Remember? I have the documentation. My lawyer confirmed it this morning. He opened his mouth. Closed it. He'd forgotten. Of course he had. But the real show, I said, turning to address the growing crowd of neighbors, isn't even this. You want to know what else I found? I pulled out my phone and started playing the security footage from 2:17 p.m. on that Tuesday afternoon. The footage of them in our bedroom. The footage I'd edited down to the most damning moments. Priscilla lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Don't worry, I said. I've already sent copies to your mother, your sister, and the HR department at your company. I believe having affairs with married men violates the morality clause in your contract? The one you signed when you were promoted to senior sales rep. Her face went from red to white in an instant. And Maddox. I turned back to my husband, my soon-to-be ex-husband. I sent everything to your business partners. All those hotel receipts. Charged to the company card. That's embezzlement. I also sent them the documentation showing you've been funneling money from our joint account. Money that included my salary. That's theft. My lawyers already filed the paperwork. You can't, he started. I already did. The silence was deafening. Now, I said calmly, you have two options. You can stand here in your underwear and try to argue with me in front of our neighbors, who are filming everything. Or you can have the tiniest shred of dignity left and leave. Maddox looked around at the crowd. At least 15 people now, all watching. Half of them had their phones out. He grabbed Priscilla's hand. Come on. They walked to his car, parked in our driveway, of course. He opened the trunk and pulled out a blanket which they wrapped around themselves. As they drove away, the neighbors erupted in conversation. Mrs. Peterson walked over to me. I never liked him, she said matter-of-factly. Too slick. And her, I always thought there was something off about how often she was around when you weren't home. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson, I said quietly. She patted my shoulder. You did good, honey. Don't let anyone tell you different. I walked back into my house, locked the door behind me, and went straight to the bedroom. The fake spiders were scattered across the bed and floor, motionless now. I gathered them up one by one and put them back in their box. Then I stripped the bed again, threw the sheets in the trash, and sat down on the bare mattress. And finally, alone, I cried. Not for him. Not for her. Not even for the marriage I'd lost. I cried for the version of myself who'd woken up 3 months ago thinking she was happy. The version who'd trusted blindly. The version who'd thought love was enough. That version of me was gone. And I was glad. The video went viral. I hadn't posted it myself. Mrs. Peterson's daughter had shared it on social media with the caption, "Cheating husband and mistress get what they deserve." By Sunday morning it had 2.3 million views. The comments were satisfying. The way they ran out screaming, "Skull. This woman is a legend. Imagine getting outsmarted by fake spiders. He really ran outside in his underwear. I can't breathe." Of course, there were also comments calling me crazy, vindictive, psychotic. I didn't care. People who'd never been betrayed like this had no right to judge. Maddox tried calling me 47 times between Friday night and Sunday afternoon. I blocked his number. He showed up at the house Saturday morning with his brother, trying to get his things. I'd already had the locks changed. Through the Ring doorbell, I told him he could collect his belongings on Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. I'd pack them myself. Anything left after 4 p.m. would be donated. He threatened to call the police. Go ahead, I said. I have a restraining order being filed tomorrow. You want to give them a reason to arrest you for harassment? Be my guest. He left. I spent Saturday packing his things. Methodically. Carefully. Every shirt. Every pair of shoes. Every book and gadget and piece of his life that had mingled with mine. I found things I'd forgotten about. The watch I'd given him for our first anniversary. The cufflinks from his father. Photos from our honeymoon in Bali. Both of us so young, so happy, so stupidly naive. I threw the photos away. Everything else went into boxes. On Sunday at 2 p.m. sharp, a moving truck pulled up. Not Maddox's brother this time. Professional movers. I watched from the window as they loaded box after box. Maddox sat in his car the entire time, never looking at the house. At 3:47 p.m., the last box was loaded. The truck pulled away. I waited for some feeling of sadness. Some pang of regret. Nothing came. Monday morning I went back to work. My colleagues knew, of course they knew. The video had spread everywhere. But no one said anything directly. Just sympathetic looks and extra coffee runs. I buried myself in projects. Worked 12-hour days. Came home to the empty house and filled the silence with podcasts, music, anything to keep my mind occupied. Patricia called me Tuesday afternoon. The divorce papers are filed, she said. And his business partners are pressing charges for embezzlement. The evidence you provided was ironclad. He's looking at criminal charges on top of the divorce. Good, I said. There's something else, Patricia continued. Priscilla's company fired her. Morality clause violation, just like you predicted. She's also facing a civil suit from them for misuse of company resources. Apparently she was using company time and company cards for her affair with Maddox. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead I just felt empty. Vivian. Patricia's voice was gentle. How are you holding up? I'm fine, I lied. No, you're not. And that's okay. What they did to you is unforgivable. You're allowed to fall apart. If I fall apart, I said quietly, I don't know if I'll be able to put myself back together. Then don't fall apart yet, she said. Not until we destroy them. Then you can grieve. But right now, stay angry. Anger will keep you strong. He was right. I stayed angry. 3 weeks after the spider incident, I received a letter. Not an email. Not a text. An actual handwritten letter delivered to my office. The handwriting was familiar. Priscilla's. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dear Vivian. I know I have no right to contact you. I know you probably hate me more than anyone on earth. I know nothing I say will change what I did or make it better. But I need you to know the truth. Not because it excuses anything, but because you deserve to know the kind of man you married. It started 8 months ago, not 5. He approached me first. We were at your birthday party, remember? When you were in the kitchen cutting the cake. He cornered me in the hallway and told me he'd always been attracted to me. That you and he were having problems. That you'd grown distant. I told him to fuck off. I swear to God, Vivian, I did. I was furious. You were my best friend. You were my best friend. Or you were. But he didn't stop. He texted me constantly. Showed up at my work. Sent me gifts. Told me that you were planning to leave him anyway, that you'd been having an affair with someone at your office. He showed me evidence. Photoshopped pictures of you with another man. I know now they were fake, but at the time, I thought I was saving him. Helping him through a hard time. And then one night, after too much wine and too many of his lies, I made the worst mistake of my life. After that, he had leverage. He threatened to tell you that I'd seduced him. That I'd pursued him. He said he'd destroy my reputation, ruin my career. I was trapped. I know how this sounds. I know it sounds like excuses. Maybe it is. But Vivian, he's not who you think he is. He's manipulative. Calculating. He played both of us. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know. I'm so sorry. P. I read the letter 3 times. Then I called Patricia. Can you investigate something for me? I asked. I need to know if Maddox created fake evidence of me having an affair. What kind of evidence? Patricia asked. Photos. Emails. Anything that could be used to manipulate someone. She was quiet for a moment. I'll look into it. Why? I told her about the letter. Even if he did, Patricia said carefully, it doesn't excuse what she did. I know, I said. But I need to know the full truth. It took Patricia 4 days to uncover it. Maddox had created an entire false narrative. Photoshopped images of me with a male colleague, doctored to look like we were holding hands, kissing, entering a hotel together. Fake email chains that he'd manufactured using my email address and made it look like I'd been conducting an affair for over a year. He'd shown all of this to Priscilla. And according to the metadata Patricia uncovered, he'd created them 2 weeks before my birthday party. 2 weeks before he'd approached Priscilla. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was premeditated. He'd deliberately targeted my best friend. Manipulated her. Used her. Not because he loved her but because it would hurt me most. The rage I'd felt before was nothing compared to this. I called Priscilla. She answered on the first ring, her voice shaking. "Vivian. I got your letter," I said. Silence. "And I investigated. You were right. He fabricated evidence to make you think I was cheating." I heard her breath catch. "Oh God. Vivian, I'm so—" "I don't forgive you," I interrupted. "What you did was still a betrayal. You should have come to me, talked to me, not believed his lies." "I know," she whispered. "But I understand now that he manipulated both of us. And I want you to know that I'm going to destroy him. Completely. And I want your help." "Anything," she said immediately. "I'll do anything." "Good," I said. "Because I have a plan." The divorce proceedings were ugly. Maddox fought everything. He claimed the house was his. He claimed I'd stolen from our joint accounts. He even tried to claim that I'd assaulted him with the spider prank, filing for emotional damages. His lawyer was expensive but sloppy. Patricia was neither. She systematically destroyed every one of his claims. The house deed was in my name, documented, legal, ironclad. The money I'd transferred was exactly half of what remained after he'd already stolen $47,000. And the spider incident? She argued that I'd simply left harmless toys in my own home. How was I to know he'd bring another woman into my bed? The judge was not sympathetic to Maddox. But that wasn't enough for me. With Priscilla's help, I uncovered something even more damning. She'd kept every text message Maddox had sent her. Every email. Every voicemail. 8 months of correspondence that painted a picture of systematic manipulation, coercion, and fraud. But more than that, she'd remembered something he'd said in passing, that I wasn't the first. With that thread to pull, Patricia hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks we found her, Emma Thornton, Maddox's college girlfriend. The one he told me had cheated on him and broken his heart. Patricia contacted her. Emma was married now, living in Colorado with 2 kids. But when Patricia explained what we were investigating, Emma agreed to a phone call. I'll never forget her first words. "He did it to you too?" Over the next hour, Emma told me her story. How Maddox had systematically isolated her from her friends. How he'd fabricated evidence that her roommate was spreading rumors about her. How he'd convinced her that everyone was against her except him. How he'd controlled every aspect of her life until she'd finally escaped to another state to get away from him. "I never called it abuse," Emma said quietly. "But that's what it was." With Emma's testimony, Priscilla's evidence, and the financial crimes Patricia had documented, we had more than enough to bury Maddox. But I wanted one more thing. I wanted him to know that he'd lost. Completely. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for a Thursday in November. Cold rain hammered the courthouse steps as I walked in with Patricia. Maddox was already there with his lawyer, looking haggard. He'd lost weight. His eyes were bloodshot. The criminal embezzlement charges were proceeding separately, and word was that his business partners had frozen him out of the company he'd helped build. He saw me and something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Anger? I didn't care. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Patricia presented our evidence methodically. The affair. The financial theft. The manipulation. The pattern of behavior documented across multiple relationships. Maddox's lawyer tried to argue that Priscilla's testimony was unreliable since she'd been a willing participant in the affair. Patricia smiled. "Your Honor, Miss Priscilla is not our only witness to Mr. Maddox's pattern of coercive and manipulative behavior." She called Emma to testify via video conference. Emma's testimony was devastating. Calm, detailed, and completely credible. Then Patricia dropped the final bomb. "Your Honor, we've also uncovered evidence that Mr. Maddox has been conducting multiple affairs throughout his marriage to Ms. Vivian. We have documentation of at least 3 other women over the past 6 years." I actually gasped. I hadn't known about this. Patricia shot me an apologetic look. She'd kept it from me until now, probably to protect me. Maddox's face went white. The judge looked at him with open disgust. Mr. Maddox, I've seen many cases in this courtroom, but rarely have I seen such a comprehensive pattern of deceit and abuse. I'm awarding the house, all shared assets and compensatory damages to Ms. Vivian. You're also ordered to pay her legal fees. Furthermore, I'm recommending that the criminal court take into account your pattern of behavior when considering the embezzlement charges. Maddox stood up, shaking. This is bullshit. He's twisting everything. She's the one who... Sit down, Mr. Maddox, the judge said coldly, or I'll hold you in contempt. He sat. I walked out of that courtroom with everything, and Maddox walked out with nothing. 6 months later I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Too many ghosts. Too many memories, both good and poisoned. I bought a condo downtown. Smaller, modern mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Bold colors. Abstract art. Not a single compromise. Maddox was sentenced to 18 months in prison for embezzlement and fraud. His business partners sued him into bankruptcy. Last I heard, he was living in his mother's basement after his release. I felt nothing when I heard that. No satisfaction. No pity. Just nothing. Priscilla and I never repaired our friendship. How could we? She'd helped me destroy Maddox, yes. She testified. She'd provided evidence. But the foundation of our friendship was shattered. We exchanged a few emails. Cordial. Distant. She moved to Portland. Got a job in a different field. Last I saw on social media, she'd adopted a dog. I hope she was okay. I really did. But I never wanted to see her again. As for me, I threw myself into work. Got a promotion. Started traveling. Places I'd always wanted to go but Maddox had never been interested in. No, listen. I went to therapy. A lot of therapy. Worked through the betrayal, the manipulation, the gaslighting I hadn't even recognized while it was happening. My therapist asked me once if I regretted the spiders. The public humiliation. I thought about it for a long time. No, I finally said. Maybe I should. Maybe it was cruel. But he took away my ability to trust. He took away years of my life. He made me doubt my own reality. The spiders? That was just showing him the same fear and panic he'd caused me. Except his was temporary. Mine lasted months. She nodded. She didn't judge. Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild. I made new friends. Carefully. Slowly. Learning to trust again was like learning to walk after a broken leg. Tentative, wobbly, but necessary. I went on dates. Some good, some terrible. None that I pursued seriously. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. But I was okay with that. A year after the divorce was finalized, I got a message on LinkedIn. Emma. The college girlfriend. Hi Vivian. I hope it's okay to reach out. I just wanted to thank you. Coming forward about what Maddox did to me was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it was also the most freeing. For years I blamed myself. Thought I was weak for letting him control me. But helping you, telling my story, it helped me realize it wasn't my fault. So thank you. For giving me that chance. I hope you're healing too. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. I wrote back, thank you for your bravery. We survived him. That's not nothing. She replied with a heart emoji. It was such a small thing. Such a tiny moment. But it mattered. Because that's what healing was. I was learning. Not grand gestures or dramatic moments. Just tiny steps. Small victories. Messages from strangers who understood. ## epilogue. 2 years later. I'm sitting on my balcony watching the sunset paint the city in shades of amber and rose. There's a glass of wine beside me. The good kind, the kind I buy just for myself now. My phone buzzes. A text from my mom who's back from another cruise, asking if I want to come for dinner Sunday. I smile and type back, yes. I'll bring dessert. Simple. Normal. Good. I think about the woman I was 3 years ago. The one who thought she had the perfect marriage. The perfect best friend. The perfect life. That woman was living a lie. And maybe if I could go back and warn her, tell her what was coming, she'd thank me. Or maybe she wouldn't believe me. Maybe she'd need to discover it herself. Either way, that woman is gone. And what's left? Scarred, yes. Damaged, maybe. But also stronger. Wiser. more careful about where I place my trust. I don't regret the spiders. I don't regret the public humiliation. I don't regret destroying Maddox's life the way he tried to destroy mine. Because here's the truth about betrayal. It's a violence. A violation. It's someone taking your reality and twisting it until you can't trust your own perceptions. And when someone does that to you, you have every right to fight back. Not everyone will understand that. People who've never been betrayed like that, who've never had their entire world revealed as a lie, will say I went too far. That I was vindictive. Pooh. Let them say it. They don't know what it's like to watch your husband bring another woman into your bed. They don't know what it's like to have your best friend look you in the eye and lie. They don't know what it's like to question every memory, every moment, wondering what was real and what was performance. I do. And I survived it. More than that, I won. My condo is paid off. My career is thriving. I have new friends, ones I've chosen carefully, ones who've proven their loyalty in small ways that matter. I even adopted a cat. A grumpy orange tabby I named Phoenix. Because from the ashes and all that. He's sitting on my lap right now, purring like a motor. I scratch behind his ears and watch the sun sink lower. Somewhere out there, Maddox is living whatever life he has left. Somewhere, Priscilla is trying to rebuild. I don't wish them harm. But I don't wish them well either. I simply don't wish them anything at all. They're irrelevant now. Footnotes in my story. The antagonists I defeated. This is my life now. Mine alone. And that's exactly how I want it. I raise my wine glass to the sunset, to the city, to the woman I've become. To me, I whisper. Phoenix meows in agreement. And for the first time in 3 years I laugh. Really laugh. Because I'm free. And nothing tastes sweeter than that. Sometimes revenge isn't about making them suffer. Sometimes it's about showing them exactly who they underestimated. And then walking away knowing you won. Vivian did both. And she never looked back.